welcome to our new Friday. It's Monday night, and it's time for ladies now. Ladies night. Now we are your hosts. It's Ness, Mauri, Koko, and little old me, Lex. Thank you so much for making it tonight. Listen, before we get started, let's hit that share button. Let's tell our girlfriends to come on in, tag some ladies. And while you're doing that, let me tell you tonight's snack of the night. It is Ness. I need you to see this trail mix. Okay, this is the sweet and salty trail mix from Chex Mix. It is amazing. What are you snacking on tonight? That's what we need to know. Some of us haven't eaten dinner yet. What are you snacking on tonight as you are watching tonight's show? We have another amazing story that we are going to share, and we want to make sure that all of our virtual hosts are on. And are we ready? Let's go. Now, before we bring on our guest tonight, did you know that we are giving away a whole ticket to the Like Never Before conference, May 12th through the 14th? It is coming up. If you do not know what that is, Mauri, can you tell us how is it going to go down? What is going on?
Yes, so we have it's women and young ladies that get together and just have an experience and an encounter with God. This year is a little more special to me because this I will persevere means something very personal to me that we will be sharing on our page in about 2 more weeks. So stay tuned. We hope you can make it out here and be with us. We're going to have some amazing speakers, amazing praise and worship, and a few surprises for you.
Ooh, I love surprises. So again, today's giveaway is a VIP pass to the Like Never Before conference, and that's going to go to someone that is in West Texas. So if you are West Texas and want that, we need you to put this emoji right here. We need you to put this emoji right there. Let us know that you're in West Texas and that you want to enter. Coco's watching. Do you want to enter in to win that VIP pass to this year's Like Never Before conference? So, ladies, are we ready for our host tonight?
Let's go.
Let's go. Our guest tonight is a Mexican-American writer, editor, and story advocate. As a Christ follower and the daughter of an immigrant mother, Jessica has a deep adoration for serving and sharing the stories of underrepresented immigrant communities. She truly believes the power of a well-told story that can transform lives and deeply impact the world. She also is passionate about supporting Latinas in the Christian faith. Advocating for immigrants, Jess has sponsored a migrant family from Honduras, guiding them through the legal and cultural impacts of seeking asylum in the U.S. Jess has also volunteered translating at the Children's Legal Center, a nonprofit that provides free legal services to children and families with children, including refugees, asylum seekers, and unaccompanied minors. She currently works as the editorial director of Chasing Justice and freelances as an editor and proofreader with a focus on companies in publishing that serve to elevate and depict voices of color in adult and children literature. She also has the privilege of serving her local church in Chicago for the past 13 years as a small group leader and various leadership positions. Can we give out our heels tonight for the one and only Jessica Galvan? Come on, girls.
Hi, Jess.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. How do you feel? Welcome to Ladies Night.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm really happy to be here, and I can't wait to dive in with you guys.
We can't wait either. But first, we want to get all nosy about your life. It's time for This and That with Jessica. All right, Jess, I'm going to be reading a few questions and you're going to answer rapidly. Are you ready?
I think so.
Would you rather be trapped in a romantic comedy with your enemies or trapped in a horror movie with your friends?
A horror movie with my friends.
Yes.
Everything's better with friends, I think.
Which friend would you let be killed first? Never mind. That's not the question. Number two, here we go. Would you rather have a life-changing adventure or be able to stop time?
Oh, life-changing adventure.
Would you rather always hit a red light for the rest of your life or always get slow internet after the sun goes down?
Slow internet.
Yeah. Slow internet.
Yeah. I got places to be. I got things to do.
Right.
Okay. Number 4, would you rather go without shampoo? This is from Mauri. Would you rather go without shampoo for the rest of your life or toothpaste for the rest of your life?
Ooh.
Oh,
Dude, that's hard.
that
Ooh.
is. I feel like you could probably find ways to substitute the toothpaste. Maybe. I don't know. That's hard. Oh, the shampoo.
Okay, good, because you could use soap for your hair.
That's true.
Last question. Jess, would you rather be the president of the United States for a day or a billionaire for a day?
Oh,
Take the money.
yeah, billionaire. I think I could figure that out easier.
Wow. Well, Ness, we weren't asking you, but anyway, that's it for our this or that round. Now it's time for She Things.
Yes, ladies. So I now realize that I'm going to have to make sure the girls behave themselves since it's already started.
Oh,
But as you already know, one of the new things that we have brought into She Things that I have enjoyed is confessions. And I really have enjoyed that because we have learned from you, but you've also learned from us. And somehow it makes me feel less weird to know that I'm not the only one that likes to smell pine sol, for example, some of those things. So it's been a really good segment. But tonight, for She Things, we are going to speak about or talk about, share about things that make you feel weird, feel uncomfortable, and maybe even sometimes makes you feel afraid when you think of whether it's a person, whether it's a something. And all of this came about because I had a conversation with a couple of girls from our church, and through a text message, they sent me a picture of a certain artist. And when they sent it to me, I'm not even going to kid you, ladies, I just had chill bumps all over me. I had a nightmare that night. I had a nightmare that that person was chasing me. And so this is where all this came about. So ladies, let's go ahead and
Who is it? Are you going to tell us? No.
tell us, Mauri. Tell us or it doesn't count. Tell us or it doesn't count.
Confession? I don't get it.
Okay, so this guy was Snoop Dogg.
Yes, Snoop Doggy Dog.
Guys, I couldn't even watch.
Double G. No.
I couldn't even watch the Super Bowl, the
What?
halftime this year.
Seriously, I thought Freddy Krueger was coming out. I thought
I thought he was
Jason. I
gonna
thought
say-
Mike, my boy Michael Myers. She
No,
said Snoop.
She said artist. I thought she was going to say that Takashi guy with the rainbow hair. That's who I thought she was going to say.
I'm
That
joking.
would make sense even.
Right?
Guys,
No rolling down the street.
Guys,
Mauri.
I can't. I
Yo,
can't.
you just killed me right now.
That is the pride and joy of California, I'll have you know.
Ooh,
Okay, let's not talk about him anymore because I
Things
have
happen.
nightmares.
We
So
don't want her
let's
to have
go ahead
nightmares
and
tonight.
laugh at somebody else. So Koko, come on, girl.
Okay, so I was gonna say like spiders, insects, anything that crawls, but after much thought, there's one thing that recently now like creeps me out, and that is hotel beds.
Oh.
Because I watched this like news thing once, and a lot of hotel cleaners, they don't be changing the sheets every single time.
No.
And these were like they were going into like high quality hotels.
Yep. 4-star hotel. Say it.
no, say it, call them out.
The Motel 6. It wasn't hotels like that. It was hotels like they would leave it a certain way, or like leave a certain spot and they would re-rent the room out. And so now I have like this like ass school sometimes, like to cover myself with the blankets or comforters or so yeah, it's hotel beds.
Oh,
The bed
Mauri,
bugs too.
you're in bed.
Bed bugs.
Mauri's not gonna stay in nobody's house anymore.
I can relate, Coco. I take my own blankets to hotels with me, and I can't. So I'm with you there. That's a good one. Okay, Ness.
Okay, so I'm not afraid, but okay, I'm definitely an animal person, but I don't like monkeys at all. I think they're gross creatures.
Wow.
When people say they're cute and they treat it like a sibling or like a child, and they put clothes and they have it like around their house, I can't do it. I think it's so gross. They're creepy. They remind me of demons. I don't like them. And then the second thing I was going to say is I'm pretty sure I can safely say that I have a condition called trypophobia. And that is the end of this conversation. If you want to Google it, you may do so. But that's it for me.
Yes, ladies, go Google it. I had no idea what that was until she shared that information with us. So, Lex.
So I was gonna say something because I thought things that scare me, but things that creep me out. And as we're all sharing, there's a few things that creep me out. There's a few things that creep me out, like toes. But things that creep me out, like me da asco. If we're talking about asco.
Or ansias, even like
I'm gonna say like when people have yellow teeth.
Oh my god,
legit.
Is that why the toothpaste question comes?
Listen, I'm gonna let you know. Seriously, like I have to turn away and I have to leave. Seriously, like
true
like the I don't know. I should have been a dentist. Like the plaque, the buildup. If someone is talking to me and they got that builds up right there, I gotta excuse myself because I get like the jitters, I get the creepies, I get the crawlies, I get the like I need to go brush my teeth right now. I need to give my sister a floss pick. It's a whole situation. So yellow teeth don't sit well with me. There are monkeys that have whiter teeth than some folks.
Hey, then you wouldn't have made it as a dentist, because what I would have done is that I would have said, come here, open your mouth. Let me get us some gloves and some floss.
No.
That's what the dentist would have done.
No. Nasty.
Okay, Jess.
This is going all wrong tonight.
Oh man. The only thing that I can think of that I'm legitimately afraid of, and we had a whole debate about this in my family, is jellyfish. Because they're beautiful, they're elegant, they're deceiving, but do you know when you get stung by a jellyfish, they put it under a microscope and it's like tiny little stabs, that's why it stings so bad. The little stingers are like thousands of little stabs all at once, and you can't see it. It's frightening. It's horrible. I don't want to go in the ocean because of it. It freaks me out. So
girls, yeah. So ladies, keep commenting on here and let us know what grosses you out, what makes you feel like you're gonna suffocate. I'll tell you one thing. I pray that I'm never stuck in an elevator with Snoop Dogg, because I'm gonna ask the Lord to take me right then and there. And that's it for
Wait a minute. I feel like we need an intervention right now with this Snoop Dogg thing. I don't understand it.
Moving on.
All right, girls, it is time for our Girl Get It Together question. And tonight we have this question. My 5-year-old kicks my 17-year-old, and my 17-year-old cries because the 5-year-old really hurts her feelings. What can I do? That is the question. And we're going to ask mamas right now in the comment section. We We have a mom that the youngest child is bullying the oldest child. What do you think of this? What can we do, Jess?
Oh man. I guess right off the bat, I can think of find ways to increase empathy. I don't know, have the little one serve the older one, find a way to get rid of the root of the problem. I'm not sure. That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Let's have good old Ness. Ness, give us some answers.
Yeah.
We have a bully as a child. What do we do?
Well, it sounds like the little one has some privileges and freedoms that they probably shouldn't have for them to feel entitled enough to lay hands on another person. And so I think a lot of times it's not uncommon for parents to treat the younger one with a little bit more leniency, a little bit more flexibility. We all know that the youngest in our family typically is like the more spoiled one, gets a lot more freedom. And so I would just encourage you, mom, to kind of maybe weigh out what freedoms and leniency you're maybe offering to the younger one that you didn't offer to the oldest one, because a lot of times there's an imbalance there. But yeah, I mean, all across the board, hands-off policy. That's a thing in our house. We don't lay hands on each other. We don't lay feet on each other, and there has to be consequences for those actions. And you also have to give your almost adult child some permissions as well to set those boundaries too. So because she's about to be 18, she's gonna catch a case pretty soon. So.
Mauri.
Man, I really enjoyed what I think Ness said, but I read it in the comments, and I was going to say this is to set boundaries for your younger child. Clearly, like Ness says, I was thinking of our household, and one of the things that the first time I let Annalise stay home with our oldest Abby, who is now 20, and Annalise is 8. One of the things that we made sure and we made very clear to Annalise was that Abby was her oldest sister, and because we were going to be out of the house, she was the adult in the home, and that she was to respect her as if mom and dad were home. And so I think that if we we should create boundaries from the beginning. And I think that teaching our children to have respect, a lot of the times we're so busy teaching our children how to respect others, especially when they're out in public and in schools. But it's so important to teach our children to respect each other in the house, to be there for each other. And so, I also think that maybe create clear consequences for hitting, and be consistent with that. Every time that child is hitting, every time that child is lashing out that way, create a consequence, and make sure that you're clear with the child that you're not punishing them, or the consequence isn't because of how the anger that they have, but the act that they're doing, which is hitting. And so making sure to be consistent with that, I think will help. And it's going to take a while because we created that. I mean, moms, we have fault in that. It's not just the child. As parents, our kids are going to go as far as we allow them to go. So,
Koko, you have 2 children. How do we handle the situation?
Una nalgadas. That's all.
She said nalgadas.
A big old butt whooping right there. Like you stop
that. Coco's having some technical difficulties, but she made sure to let us know that just like some of our viewers right now, they are taking out the chanclas. They're putting out the chancla emojis right now. So, Mama, I hope that we helped you. I think definitely setting some boundaries would do the work. If you have if you have a question that you would like one of us to answer, we invite you to go ahead and send us your question to our thisismytimeministries@gmail.com, or send us your question to Girl Get It Together hotline at 806-410-0706. All right, ladies, it's time for our sponsor. Ladies Night Virtual host, you want to check out Wild Honey Couture. Tonight's episode is sponsored by Brisa's Beautiful Boutique. This is where you can find your latest in fashion, boutique style clothing. She's selling what she loves with love. Check out www.wildhoneycouture.com or their Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Wild Honey Couture. Virtual host, tonight's episode is sponsored by Emeralds of the Sea. They're a faith-based nonprofit organization whose mission is to encourage, empower, and educate the world through sex trauma, recovery, and prevention. They offer mentorship for trauma survivors, survivor retreats and conferences, outreach collaboration, youth trafficking prevention, child abuse prevention training, and workshops for churches. They also have a 2-year trauma-informed and Holy Spirit-led mentorship program empowering survivors to heal from sexual trauma through hope, healing, and freedom found in Jesus Christ. Please visit their website, www.emeraldsofthesea.org, to get involved. In a sea of billions, you are the emerald that God sees. If you'd like to be a boss babe, all you have to do is write to thisismytimeministries@gmail.com or send us a message in one of our social media platforms. Back to you, ladies.
Ladies, it is time for our Chick Chat, and I just want to encourage you to stick around after this. Jess will be leading our nightcap, and then shortly after that, we will be giving away that grand prize after the nightcap. You don't want to miss it, so please hang tight with us through that. I promise you it'll be worth the wait. So we're diving into our nightcap, and tonight's topic is abandoned to the voice of God. I needed to get that wording right. And this season, we've been hearing stories from women just like you and I, stories of faith, stories of failure, and learning more about God and ourselves throughout the process. It's been amazing. I've had to rewatch a couple of episodes just to kind of hear the details again and let them sink in and process. Tonight, we have Jess Galvan, who is currently walking out a story of great risk and next level faith. She's encouraged me personally in partnership with her husband and her children. I need to share that I met Jess online via another organization called Latinas Loving Jesus, and she has since become a very sweet Instagram friend of mine. And so if you ever feel inclined to reach out to another sister online, do it. Make some friends. There's nothing weird about it. It's great.
Yes.
It stood out to me at the time because her title, if you, I don't know why I wrote this wrong. Her title read Story Advocate, and you heard us explain that at the beginning of tonight's show. And I was so intrigued by this that I reached out to her online and I asked Jess, what does that mean? And you'll find out very shortly how much Jess cares about the unique and specific handcrafted stories of each person that she meets, and especially those who've yet to find a voice or a platform to tell their own stories. So from buying a camper in the middle of a pandemic, which I don't know, you might hear about tonight, to hosting a refugee family, to moving across the country, Jess will inspire you to do it, to walk with God, to live out your faith. Whatever dream that He has whispered to your heart, I promise you will be encouraged to strive after that tonight. So Jess, it's such an honor to have you here with us today. I follow you online, and I find that you spend a lot of your time advocating for others, telling the stories of the marginalized. So today, it's such a gift to give you a chance to tell your story and to hear your voice. So Jess, start us off. Tell us your story.
Oh, Ness, thank you so much. That intro was so gracious of you. And yes, I love our friendship that we've grown online, and I can't wait to meet you in person soon, to see you and give you a big hug. But yeah, as I was preparing on what, to share with you all, I found myself in this uncomfortable space of, as Ness mentioned, I'm very used to sharing other stories. My job is editing. Someone gives me their story and I help craft it to be, to be a story that is impactful and will hopefully touch other people in a special way. And I am in a space where I'm not used to sharing my story. So it's very vulnerable for me. So just bear with me tonight. And I also realized that I have not vocalized this experience ever. So I've written about it and processed it in my mind and prayed over it, journaled, but I actually have not shared it in this capacity. So I am honored to do this tonight. And I just want to share, I want to start from I want to go back to 2018. And that's where I'll start the specific part of my story, as Ness mentioned. In 2018, some of you remember the family separation policies that we had heard about that was happening under the Trump administration. And when we heard that there were the projection of what was to happen of like 26,000 children were going to be torn away from their parents at the Mexican border in response to the caravan that was coming up to the border to the US, I was honestly floored. I was in awe and shock that this could actually happen. And then when it actually started happening, I was completely broken. And the reason because of that, because this specifically touched my heart was because the children that were being separated and their parents and their moms, their guardians, they looked like me. They looked like my mother. They looked like my sister, my daughters, my nephews. And my mom immigrated here when she was 18 years old from Mexico. And if her story had gone any other way, I could have been one of those children. My sister could have been one of those children. And it just reminded me that we are very close to, we are closer to our neighbors and to the marginalized than we think.
Yes.
And it can be scary to process that. It can be scary to admit that. But I think as we're seeing now, even with what's happening in the Ukraine, we don't know when that could happen. Or a refugee, I think we've talked about, is something that happens to you. It's not who you are. It's not your identity. So, and I saw this happening. I had to act. I felt compelled. I felt the Holy Spirit tell me, you know, reading and researching, Jess, is great, but you need to do something. You know, I can highlight what other people are doing. I can post links on policies and, you know, regardless of what I believe, what my politics are, or whatever I think about immigration, the Holy Spirit was saying, put that aside. You need to do something, my sister. You need to do something, my daughter. And so I researched and tried to figure out what that was. And I talked to my husband. We prayed about it. We fasted on it. And all we knew was that we wanted to love our neighbor. And we didn't know what that looked like to love them, specifically the families at the border. Since we were in Chicago, we weren't exactly close enough to like go to the border and serve them and, you know, anything like that. But we wanted to find a way to help. So anyway, I did some research and looked into, I found out that there's something called sponsorship, where you could actually sponsor a family at the border who is trying to come in as refugees. And the chances of a family going through, the chances of a family not being separated when they have a sponsor were really, really, the chances of a family not being separated were very high. So if you had a sponsor, you had someone who is a citizen of the US who said, I will account for them, I will take care of them, I will help them, they would not get, the mother and child would not get separated. So my husband and I said, you know what, I think we can do that. I had no idea what that was. I literally like Googled it and was trying to figure out, piece together what that even looks like. Do they live with us? Do we have to find them a separate home? You know, what does that look like? And mind you, we also have 3 small children. At the time, we only had 2 daughters. So welcoming a stranger into our home felt really risky. It felt really scary.
Yeah.
And you literally don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you're going to get. But the Lord commands us to love one another and to love our neighbor, and that's it. There's no other strings attached. There's no, love them, but this, only if this, only for this certain instance, or the people that you're comfortable with. He says, love your neighbor as yourself. So we did it. We signed up to be a sponsor June of 2018 or 2019. So June 18 is when the policy started. Then June 2019 is when we finally heard that we were matched with a woman from Honduras who was pregnant. She was 8 months pregnant, and she had a 13-year-old son. And they were waiting in San Diego. And they literally had a week to find a sponsor. And if they did not, they were going to be sent back to the border. And they had already been sent back twice, I believe. So this was their last try. This is their last chance. So quickly we did a GoFundMe, raised as much money as we could. Because literally when you say, yeah, I'm going to sponsor you, there's really no one to help you. We didn't do it through an organization. It was through this Facebook group that was just, grassroots, trying to match families and sponsors. And I don't know if you guys remember, but it was very hectic. Like, things were happening so quick. Yeah. And the information that we were getting, it was hard to piecemeal stuff. So when we found out that we were matched with the family, we said, yes, okay, we'll send over the flight money, and literally met Miriam. I'm using pseudonyms for their safety. But we met Miriam through WhatsApp first.
Wow.
And told her, you know what, we can't wait to meet you, and we'll see you in 2 days. So they flew over to Chicago. My husband picked them up from the airport, and we welcomed them into our home.
Wow.
And they lived with us for, I want to say, about a year.
Wow.
But honestly, it was scary. And at the same time, I would do it again, because the stories that she shared that was happening at the border, and if she had not found a sponsor, were devastating. So because Miriam came to live with us, her son Edmund was able to stay with her. So we brought them together. And then because she was pregnant, if she didn't have a sponsor, when she was going to have that baby, they were going to get separated as well. So thankfully, the Lord, answered her prayer, and just through the obedience that we felt in our hearts, we decided to bring them into our home. Now, I feel like I'm skipping like so many things, because like I said, I haven't articulated this part of our journey ever. So if you guys have any questions or want to interject, please feel free to. But that was a very clear instance of when we heard the Lord just tell us, you need to do it, and do it. And a lot of times there's no time to doubt. You just got to act.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's good.
So good.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so that was sponsoring a family in the caravan, and I can go into more depth about that, but pretty much we had to get their lawyer. We had to find legal aid for them. We owned a building, so we had a basement level in our apartment, and we refinished it and turned it into a little mini apartment for them. And I need to reiterate, first and foremost, though, that the community that we had in Chicago was hands down the church that we had. They were the hands and feet of the Lord. They were the body. And when we came to them and shared that we were going to be doing this, my husband and I did not expect, we didn't want them to feel like compelled to help in any way, because this was a very, I think, almost like drastic way to serve. So we didn't want them to feel like they had to necessarily come alongside us, but so many of them wanted to help. They donated money, but they brought in clothes. They brought in furniture. When my husband was refinishing the basement, putting up drywall and tearing down studs and things like that, our community group came and helped him put up drywall and build this apartment down there. There's no way we could have done it on our own. So I need to reiterate that, when the Lord calls you, he equips you and he brings workers. And if you ever have a fear of following what the Lord has put on your heart because it seems too big, it seems too scary, he will equip you. He will give you exactly what you need. He will bring the people alongside you who will fill in those gaps that you don't think that you are capable of doing. And that's the beauty of following God directly when he gives you a call.
Yeah.
When the Lord speaks to me and tells me to do something, I debate. I'm a debater. I'll find all the holes in the plan. I'm like, but what about this? What about that? He's like, just drop it here. And he shows off and shows me time and time again that he's got it. He'll take care of it.
Yes.
And he did. He definitely did. So, sorry, I'm kind of trying to process exactly everything as I go, but the next, I guess the what Ness had also mentioned before in the introduction was that we moved to Texas. So another instance of following the Lord's call recently was uprooting our family, moving across the country to Texas. Chicago was our home. I grew up there in the northwest suburbs of the city, and I moved there for college and studied and stayed there. My husband and I dated in Chicago. We got married in Chicago. I got baptized. He got baptized in our home church in Chicago. We were there for years. We led a home group. It was home. And it wasn't until last year that we came to Texas to visit because all my in-laws live here. My sister-in-law, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law, my husband's side of his family. We came to visit for the holidays, and we started to realize that maybe it was time for a change. And I think the hardest part of knowing when to let go of something so dear, something so good that you value, is when the Lord tells you, I got something better, and it's okay. Wow. It's going to be different, and it's going to be scary, but your work here is done, and it's time for you to move over here. And in order to hear, and I kicked and screamed. I didn't want to do it. My husband was all for it. He was done with the cold. He was done with the snow. He was tired of shoveling. He didn't want to deal with the Chicago weather anymore. And he wanted to be closer to his family. And I didn't want to leave our community, but it's funny, a contingency I gave my husband when I told him, when we were talking about moving to Texas, I told him, I was like, well, you know what? We need a community. We cannot just move somewhere and not have a church. Since we were so embedded in our community in Chicago, I knew how vital it was. And I knew it was going to be vital to my mental health, to my my spiritual growth. And so I needed to know what we were coming into. So we fasted and prayed, and God provided answers to every debate that I gave, every fight, every reason to not move. He answered. He provided a church for us. As before we even got there, I signed up to their women's retreat, went to their women's retreat only knowing one person, and was there for a full weekend and met these women right then and there. And I shared with them.
I feel like that takes more courage than hosting a refugee family.
I was going to say the same thing. How scary was that?
Oh my God. You did what?
Strangers.
Women's pastors out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
sorry.
No, it's okay. It was intimidating, but I was on a mission to, I don't know, kind of prove a point that we weren't supposed to move. So I was like, I wanted to go and be like, no, this isn't going to be the right time. I don't think, we can't find a church. I just saw a comment from my little sister. She said to share about Benny.
Yes, we want to hear about Benny. We're all intrigued.
Yes. So part of that story of the reason for leaving was when we were visiting here, I found out that I was pregnant with my son, my little baby boy. And he is our third child. And to be completely honest, I wasn't the most ecstatic about being pregnant again.
That's okay.
I already had 2. And our youngest was going to be 5 at the time, or she was 5. So I was like, you know what? We haven't had another one. I think, we're good. I think it's time to that's our family, and that's how it's going to be. And I was already starting to work more. I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, and I was ready to move on into this new season of life that I pictured or had imagined for myself with having school-age children. And then I end up having another baby. So in Chicago, our apartment was really small. It was 2 bedrooms, and we literally had nowhere to put him. We're like, if we have this baby, he's going to sleep in a closet because we don't have space for him. There's no room. And while we were visiting in Texas, there was so much space everywhere. The houses, we were looking in the suburbs outside of Houston. That's where my in-laws live. And we were staying in their house, and my husband and I are like, you know what? I think it's time. Logistically, it made sense. But again, I was like, no, you know what? We can make it work. We'll figure it out. Babies don't need a lot of space. You can sleep in the closet.
She's trying real hard.
I was trying real hard. I didn't want to leave, but the Lord answered and said, you know what? You need to go. And I'm going to be honest, moving from Chicago to Houston is not exactly the same thing. There were some things I was legitimately nervous about and worried about, especially for my kids and our family. And, Chicago is a sanctuary state when it comes to, immigration and serving. And obviously our heart is with the marginalized. And when you think of Texas, you don't necessarily think of that, or I didn't. Right. And so I had some biases on my end too that I had to work through and pray about. But you know what? The mission field is not always what you think it is. Yeah. It's not always, going to another country to serve, which it can be for some people. Your mission field is right next door. It's your neighbor. Yeah. It's exactly where you are. It's where the Lord puts you. And so I said, you know what? We served Chicago. We served our community well. And that was our mission field. And it's time to go to a new mission field. And through fasting and prayer and talking to some really wise friends and family, we made the move. We picked up our stuff and shipped it over south and explained to our daughters what in the world we were doing. You're 5 and 7 and leaving their friends behind. And that was hard for them. But when we brought it back to the word, to God, we invited them in the process also of whether we were moving or not. We fasted together. We prayed with them. We made the process of listening to the Lord very real and present for them. Because I think that's important as for children to see how exactly do you hear the voice of God? How do you know what God sounds like? My daughter asks me all the time, what does God sound like? How do you know that he's talking to you? How do you know what he's saying? And so articulating and practicing that in front of our children is vital for them to realize, what does it look like to follow the Lord in the big ways and in the small ways?
Yeah. Jess, I'm really glad that you brought that up because we have a couple of questions for you. We're so curious, so much more. There's so many more details to these stories. Yeah. And I'm feeling it like rise up in me like, wait, what about this? And what about that? And all of the debates that you said you had with the Lord, like I want to have with you right now. I want to ask, were you thinking about this? About that? So we just have a couple of questions to ask you. And actually, Mauri, I'll let you start and then I'll follow up after that. But
yes, thank you, Jess, for sharing your story. It resonates so much with me. And I love the question that I'm going to be asking you today, which is God speaks to us in many ways. For you, Jess, how do you know when God is pushing you into something new? How does he confirm those big decisions to you. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and real quick, because many of us find ourselves there, like, whether discerning whether it's God, these dreams that we have, and trying to figure that out. Can you share with us a little
Yeah.
how you were able to decipher that and know that it was God?
Yeah, so the way the Lord speaks to me, so I get very excited about new things, very excited. Something new, sparkly, shiny, awesome. It's an idea. Let's do it. Ness mentioned this camper. Oh my gosh, during COVID, we bought a camper off Facebook Marketplace, bought it, cash, and renovated it. We were bored. We needed we needed a project. We all handled COVID differently. That's how I handled it. I bought a camper, renovated, and we traveled while I homeschooled my children. But anyway, so that is how excited I get about new things. But when the Lord speaks to me, when the sparkle of the new idea wears off, I know it's not from God. Wow. When it phases and fizzles out and I'm like, oh, something else, and I get distracted, I know it's not the Holy Spirit. Because when it is the Lord and when it is the Holy Spirit, it does not leave me alone. I cannot shake it. The voice is constantly in my mind. He knows me best. He knows I'm stubborn. He knows how to break me down, to hear me over and over and over. He has to reiterate it to me. He will not shake it. And it's because I'm stubborn that way. So whispers don't work with me. I need that. And that's how I know, similar with the family, the refugee family, I couldn't sleep. I had a hard time looking at my children, and I was weeping and looking at my children because I couldn't take the images away of the children being separated from their parents. I was distraught, and the Lord burdened me for them. It wasn't just like, hey, we need help. What can we do? Yeah. I felt a burden, and I could not, nothing I did, no matter the Instagram shares that I did, the stories that I shared, it wasn't enough because the Lord wanted me to move into action. Yeah. And it wasn't until I did that I felt peace. Wow. It wasn't until, yeah.
I'm sorry. I really like what you're saying, and you said it at the beginning of your story, and I just feel like this is something that I'd like to reiterate on. Is I think it's so important, like you said earlier, is to take action when God is putting something in your heart, because I feel that the longer you ponder and just think about it, the more unmotivated, I guess, you get, or the more, opposite. It can't happen because of this. But hearing your story, it was just acting, on what the Lord was telling you to do. Right. That made these things possible. And another thing really quick before I give it over to Ness, that you said is when you acted on it, you began to see God come through in many ways. Is that right?
Yes. So I research, and I'm not a planner. I just research, store that information in here, and then it kind of just, I don't know. I figured find a way to sort it out. But it wasn't until, like, with the family, I researched. I was like, well, we need to pay for this. We need to do that. And then I started to share with our community what we were doing, because we were so involved in each other's lives. I couldn't not. They knew I wasn't okay because I had shared already the burden that I felt, and they were praying for us. And then finally, when we shared that we were going to be sponsoring this family, they asked, well, how can we help? And I didn't want to burden them. I didn't want, because I knew this was on us, and I know everyone's calling is different, and I didn't want to feel like they had to necessarily do it too. But we shared, and they said, you know what, we're gonna do this GoFundMe. And they started sharing it, and they started collecting funds, and then they started getting clothes, and then they started getting furniture to bring into the basement. And then they helped us our community came along and helped us find medical insurance for them, because Miriam was pregnant and she was due any minute, like any day, and she didn't have insurance. And so these things we're just that I had no experience in that. I was just like, you know what? I'm bilingual. We have a basement and I feel this burden. So I'm going to do it. And that's it. And there was no time for me to doubt. My husband was on board. Thank the Lord I have a husband who's, you know, I couldn't do this without him. And he jumps on board with me. The Lord spoke to him also. And that too, that God aligned our hearts together. Because how do you explain to your husband that you want to bring strangers into your home because they, for whatever reason. So, but the Lord aligned his heart. He aligned my heart together, and there's no way that I could have done that. So yes, that's how God filled in the gaps for us.
I'm just so intrigued and fascinated by you. I think if I remember, you're Enneagram 7, which means you can be, because more adventurous, I would be the right way to say. I think Mauri is also a 7, which makes so much sense. But me, I'm not. I'm very much like, well, how is it going to work? And I need to like pick it apart, right? I'm a challenger. I need to know what's behind it, underneath it, what's inside of it, all around it before I'm ready to step into it. And so I think it's just fascinating. But as you and I were talking before the show, I said, you know, but what we're talking about is the fundamental. It's the fundamentals of our belief, of our faith, of our walk with God. It's faith. That's it.
Yep.
Faith. It's trusting God, and we, not to minimize your story, but we kind of like amplify these risks with God as if they're just so amazing and sensational when really they should be commonplace.
Yeah.
Right? It should be so average for the believer to say, well, I have a basement and I have
so good.
I speak Spanish, so 2 and 2 equals 4.
Yeah.
But we are so hesitant to do the very basic things that God has asked us to do, and I'll be the first to admit it. Everything you're talking about, moving across the country, bringing strangers into your home, that terrifies me to my core to hear you talk about it. And so I love the way you're challenging us to think and to reconsider how we are using the very resources that we have right in front of us, how we're stewarding the relationships with our next door neighbors and the mission field that we're sitting in right now. I love it. But as I kind of unpack my fears in my head, my question is, what has been the most terrifying part of following God for you? Was there any moments where you felt like I completely blew it? We're done. We're over now.
So this is why I don't talk about this. This is why I haven't shared as much, because yes, I'm an adventurous person and I'll probably do I'll jump off a cliff. You tell me, let's go. I'm like, all right, I'll be there. That's just in my personality. That's just who I am. So I do have this leaning towards the slightly reckless, I guess. I don't know. Adventurous. Like you said, adventurous. But there is the reality of the fear. Following God is not easy. And it can be terrifying. And I think it should be, because we cannot understand his magnitude fully.
Yeah.
And that should bring fear, a healthy dose of fear.
Yeah.
But for me, what was terrifying specifically with sponsoring a family in our home, I honestly thought that something bad was going to happen to someone I love, like my husband, my daughters. We're in our home. We didn't lock. The basement and the apartment were connected. We didn't have any locked doors between them, and I didn't know Miriam's full backstory. I knew she was, and I don't want to share specifics of her story because it's not mine to tell. I honestly believe when you work with the marginalized that you need to respect and honor their experience. And so I'll just share on my end. But I knew enough to be afraid that she was fleeing very real danger. And I was nervous that could catch up with us in some way. And And the pain, the reality that something like that could happen to one of my family members was insurmountable, because before I had God in my life, I was broken. I struggled a lot with abandonment growing up as a child. My past, I came to the Lord completely broken. So I knew what it felt like to have that feeling of complete brokenness. Yeah. So the slightest whiff, the slightest possibility of getting there again was terrifying to me.
Wow.
And I specifically want to share James 1:2, and he says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you encounter trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance." And many times we stop there, right? We're like, trials, consider it pure joy. But if you keep going to verse 4, it says, "Allow perseverance to finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything."
That's good.
So the testing part is just the beginning, right? The perseverance needs to be developed. And even then, that's not the end goal.
Yeah.
It's when it is completed that you have maturity and wholeness, feeling complete in Him.
Yeah.
And I personally was nervous that my perseverance was being developed. And even though I was nervous to find out if I had reached that maturity, because when push came to shove, and if something happened and the worst imaginable thing happened, I wanted to know that I really was not lacking in anything, that I was completely in the Lord.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm articulating this correctly, but I was nervous to find that out. But I think that's part of the perseverance, is that, it's a process. It takes time. And that is our faith in action. That is how our faith evolves and grows.
Yeah.
But in turn, and in your question, so that was what I was afraid of. That was a long answer to what I was afraid of. But in terms of blowing it, I was worried that I was going to do it wrong. I was worried that I was going to come across like trying to fix everything and solve everything for them. And specifically, I wanted to share Miriam's story to give her a voice and to help her. And so, to be completely honest, I don't know if I told you this, Ness, but I did start like an Instagram account specifically to share their story. And I began a blog to update, because people were asking, they wanted to know how it was going. They were invested in their story. Wow. And I thought that was the best route to go. And I thought that, I'm a writer. So I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like that's what I need to do. But it felt like oversharing, and the Lord told me, no, this needs to be done in the quiet. This does not need to be amplified. It doesn't need to be advertised. It doesn't need you don't need anything more than what I am giving you right now.
Wow.
And I had to pull back real hard. And as a writer, I was like, but I need to write and share this. But it wasn't my story to tell. And that's not the way that the Lord wanted to serve her. That's not how He wanted her story to go. So
that's good. That's so countercultural, to be very honest. Right?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I love what someone just wrote. One of our virtual hosts said, following Jesus is not safe. And I hope that tonight, everyone that's watching is feeling challenged. What is Jesus calling you to do? And I'm with Ness. I feel like just scripture. I don't feel like we're doing all of that, like bring someone in, bring them into your homes. You may be hosting an angel for all that that there's just so much right now that's going through my mind. Are we really doing what Christ has given us as work here on earth, or are we just doing what's comfortable? But here's a last question for you, and stay tuned, because Jess is going to share in a few minutes just to leave us off tonight with the nightcap. words of encouragement for all those that are watching and hearing tonight. So this is the last question. What are some ways that you'd like to see women of God specifically activated for the sake of the gospel? What are we not doing right now that needs our attention?
That's so good. I think right now we do specifically, I think we need to do a lot of listening and pausing. And I know there are a lot of voices and a lot of people who interject and say, you know, when I mean listen, like listen to your community, listen to your neighbors. What do they need? The Lord has put this on my heart right now a lot because of our move to Texas. And I'm an activator. I like to, you know, there's a need, let's move in and do it. What can we do? And that's just the way that I'm wired. Let's talk about it, but we got to do it. But we moved to a whole new community, and I don't know the needs of this community. I don't know these people. I don't know their past. I don't know their history. And specifically when you work with the marginalized or in immigrant communities, you cannot assume that you know where they come from. Regardless of what they share with you, you cannot assume that you completely understand what was in their heart, what burdens them. And you only learn that by listening and living in community with them. So I think a lot of times we've been, you know, obviously we've been isolated for so long. We've been home, but that's it. Time's up. Like we need to come back together. We need to find out what our neighbors need.
That's good.
Cross your driveway, talk to them.
So good.
It's scary, but that's what the Lord calls us to do. We need to move, put your chanclas on and walk across the street and get to know your neighbor. If you have a heart, a burden for the immigrant community, I can talk more on that later, you know, in the chat to answer some questions, but listen, you have to listen. And you have to and live with them in community. Don't think of just serving them. Don't go in it thinking, what am I going to do for you? No, get to know them first. Listen, be in their world, and the Lord will answer that for you. Exactly how to move and how to share the gospel with them specifically.
So good.
Very good. Oh, is that me? I'm sorry. Jess, thank you so much for sharing these details, just the vulnerability, the transparency, the honesty. Even as we're asking you to share the burdens of your heart, the burden that you have for the marginalized still just weighs so heavily in your voice, and you can just feel the passion that the Lord has put on your heart. And I'm just so honored to know you and feel so encouraged. Tonight, I just, everything has been incredible. But if you want to keep up with Jess, please follow her online, and her Instagram handle is right here at Jess Galvan. I can't see it from this far.
Jess and Galvan.
Keep up with her. She has all sorts of resources available to you. I think she'd be more than happy to answer a DM if you have any questions about anything that you can do, any advocacy work that you can be involved in, or any resources that you might want to hear about. I know that she'd love to equip you with that, and also just following along in her story and finding out about all of the other causes that are near and dear to her heart. But Jess, thank you, and we are so excited to dive now into our nightcap. Good.
Hi, ladies. So the word I want to leave with you tonight is be ready. I had mentioned it in my story. But I want you to be ready. I want you to be in the Word. I want you to be in community and be in the world, not of the world, but be in it. Look around and do not isolate yourself from others. Stay tender and ponte pilas, meaning stay alert, because when the Lord calls you, there is no time for your doubt. A lot of times the word is clear, and we need to love one another through action. So when you need to move, be ready to move. You don't need to travel to another country to go on a missions trip in order to serve your community or to serve what is in your heart, what the Lord has put on you. Look around you. Your mission field is where you are. And I feel very passionate about that. That a lot of times we're looking where I don't know where God wants me to serve. I don't know what he wants me to do. A lot of the times it's right next door, or it's across the street, or it's in that other neighborhood not too far that maybe you wouldn't normally go into because it makes you uncomfortable. But those are the Lord's people still. Those are your brothers and sisters, and they need your help. They need to feel the love of God. So a lot of times your doubt, there's no room for it. You got to move. So I want to end by reading Ephesians 4:1-2. I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing one another in love. I share that with you. Go in love, go in action, and be ready, mamas. Thank you.
That was absolutely amazing. What has the Lord called you to? And I love what she said. You could just go across the street. He's not asking you to go across the country. Where has the Lord called you to? And we just have to start there. Obedience in that person that we see in church that looks like they just need someone, needs love, needs attention. What's going on in your community? If we do not know what's going on in our community, you may have been living there 10 years, 10 months. Find out what's going on in your community. So tonight, we're so grateful for Jess just sharing her story. Follow her story, and let's see what we can do. Be the hands and feet of Jesus. That's our mission. That is our mission. We are so grateful tonight for her sharing her story. And soon you will be able to share yours as well. We have 2 more episodes in season 5. You don't want to miss out. But before we go, I want to make sure that you are getting registered for the Like Never Before conference. Tonight's giveaway winner is Billy Torres. Please DM us so that you could get your information on how to get your ticket. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we have an incredible woman of God sharing her story. Pastor Mandy Peña will be with us, joining us right here live next Monday night. Step out into your purpose, ladies. I will see you next week. This is Lex.